Pound DWI has been around for a decade. It's a catchy phone number used to help bust drunk drivers. But is the system busted? News 13's Kim Holland has tonight's special assignment.
He's all over the road.
Oh, we got something else.
He's really bad, though.
And I'd become frustrated because I wanted this guy off the road.
It's a call to drunk busters that Pat Garrett thought would end with an arrest, or at least a police response. He suspected the driver in front of him was hammered.
Because it was excessive. I mean, it wasn't somebody that was right there, borderline. This was somebody that was severely impaired, and I was concerned. He went left to center a little bit.
Last month, Garrett spotted that driver near Paseo del Norte and Edith in the North Valley.
I was right here in about this area.
So he called Pound DWI.
I have a gentleman driving all over the road. He's gone left to center. He's gone on the shoulder. He cannot maintain lanes.
But right here, he really jumped on the other lane by 2 or 3 feet.
Garrett gave the dispatcher a description of the car.
It is a Ford Fusion.
Even a license plate number. Then the call became more urgent when Garrett says the driver and the passenger began fighting.
And I could see arms flying back and forth.
When people call Pound DWI from anywhere in the state, those calls come here to the Albuquerque State Police Office. The Drunk Busters dispatcher asks the caller their location and then transfers that call back to the law enforcement agency in that area.
Can you tell me what city you're in, sir?
But that added step can delay an officer's response. In Garrett's case,
Let me transfer over to BCSO, okay?
the phone rang for 20 seconds. And 3 minutes later, the county dispatcher finally entered all the information in the computer. By now, Garrett followed the driver into Albuquerque city limits, along Montano headed west, now APD's territory. Frustrated with sitting on hold for several minutes, Garrett hung up and called 911.
We're west on Montano. We're going to be hitting course here in about half a mile.
Garrett had already followed the suspected drunk driver for more than 8 miles by this point.
You want me to stay on?
No, it's okay. We don't encourage people to follow if they don't want to cause an accident.
I used to do it for a living.
Garrett is a retired state police officer with extensive training in spotting drunk drivers. He mentioned his background to each dispatcher.
This is Lieutenant Garrett. I retired from there about 2 years ago.
But he says it didn't increase the urgency to get a cop on scene.
If a law enforcement officer calls in and says, I have something here that's significant, or a retired law enforcement officer, it's pretty much a sure thing. It's not John Q. Citizen calling in saying, well, this guy swerved and I think he's drunk. I mean, we know the habits of impaired drivers, and this one was, extremely obvious.
We take every call with absolute seriousness, regardless of who the caller is.
DPS Cabinet Secretary Scott Weaver says Pound DWI is only one weapon in their arsenal to catch drunk drivers.
It is available to those individuals that may not feel comfortable with dialing 911.
An odd coincidence in this case, Garrett supervised the Drunk Busters hotline when he was on the state police force.
I've always called it a middleman, and it just delays everything. It delays several minutes. In certain instances, that time is crucial.
The state has been talking about ways to update the software to better pinpoint calls automatically, like the 911 system does. But every city, county, cellular company, and law enforcement agency across New Mexico would have to be on board. DPS says the current system does work.
We've gotten 64 arrests off of this program.
64 arrests so far this year, but that's out of 3,000 calls. We may never know how many of those suspected drunk drivers slipped away because of delays, but Pat Garrett now knows that's what happened with his call.
We did not make contact with that car.
Officers were told to be on the lookout for the Ford Fusion, but no one from any department met up with Garrett while he was following that suspected drunk driver for 10 minutes.
Even if later we found that car in a driveway, if we didn't witness the violation, we wouldn't have been able to cite for it.
Garrett will think twice about calling drunk busters in the future.
How do we not know that when he got home or he got to his destination, he didn't beat that person in the passenger car, or that passenger beat him?
Kim Holland, KRQE News 13.